Welcome to Portsmouth Now. I'm your host, Rob Lauer. If you walk along the Portsmouth waterfront near the High Street Ferry Landing, eventually you're going to come upon this very impressive display. This lamp is over 150 years old. It stood atop the Hogs Head Lighthouse on the eastern shore of Virginia. It's one of the few of its kind still in existence, valued at nearly $1 million. And since 2003, it's been displayed here in its attractive pavilion, which in itself cost over $500,000. Now, you're probably asking, how did the city of Portsmouth ever find the money to pay for all of this? And the answer would be, the city of Portsmouth didn't. You see, this display was paid for by the Portsmouth Museum Foundation, a nonprofit organization that raises private money to support the city's 4 museums. On today's show, we're going to look at the work of the Portsmouth Museum Foundation and how it's added to the life and culture of not only Portsmouth, but the entire Hampton Roads region. That's coming up now on this episode of Portsmouth Now. Welcome to Portsmouth Now. Behind me is the lightship Portsmouth. This ship is over 100 years old and one of only 9 U.S. lightships that are still open to the public. In 2002, the Portsmouth Museum Foundation raised over $600,000 for renovations of this important relic of America's nautical past. Portsmouth Museum Foundation is comprised of a 24-person board of directors, a diverse group of men and women from all over Hampton Roads. They also have a full-time executive director and a part-time assistant. Recently, the executive director, the current president, and 3 board members took breaks from their very busy schedules to tell me more about the history and the work of the foundation. Martha Frances Fortson is the executive director of the Portsmouth Museum Foundation. Thanks for joining us, Martha.
Now, thank you for having all of us.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Now, you told me that you have the whole history up here, right?
I do.
Okay, so I'm going to you for the history of the foundation.
Okay. The Portsmouth Museums Foundation was actually formed out of a tremendous need for fundraising for the Children's Museum of Virginia. The Children's Museum was founded by the Portsmouth Service League in 1980. And opened in the basement of the Portsmouth Public Library, and many Portsmouth residents will remember that.
Yep.
It's on a very small scale. It became so popular, it then moved to the first floor of the Portsmouth Art and Cultural Center, formerly the Courthouse Galleries. Then it had another move after that, and that's when the city bought the Leggett's building, which was at 221 High Street, and the Children's Museum moved into the first floor of the Leggett's building in 1994. It was then that a huge need for fundraising opened up. And in 1992, Senator William B. Spong, a resident of Portsmouth at that time, kind of took it under his wing and had it incorporated through the State Corporation Commission. And then the foundation launched itself into fundraising mode for the first floor of the Children's Museum, which was the former Leggett's building. That opened in 1994. And right on the heels of that came a wonderful gift to the foundation of the train exhibit, the wonderful train collection of Junie and Millie Lancasters, and also her toy collection. And that was in 1995. So the foundation realized that they were going to have to embark on another capital campaign to do the second floor for the trains, which opened up in December of 1998.
Wow.
So we had that from 1998 to 2010 when we closed for renovation for the phase 3, which was a total renovation. The Portsmouth Museums Foundation again went into major fundraising mode. This time $4 million for exhibits in the new Children's Museum of Virginia.
Wow.
And that's where we are now. We have, at this point, we're working tremendously on endowment, as Christine explained about the Dick Batten Challenge and what a wonderful opportunity that is for us.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the history of the foundation in a nutshell. We really pride ourselves on having a regional board. and Chesapeake, Suffolk, Norfolk, Portsmouth, and Virginia Beach are represented.
Because this
on
is the
board.
Children's Museum
Yes,
of Virginia.
and it is a
lot
regional
of people,
museum.
even when it reopened a few years ago, other parts of Canada thought it was the Portsmouth Children's
Exactly.
Museum. But it's not.
Exactly.
This is for the state. This is
Well, Richmond would love to have the Children's Museum of Virginia, but we were very, very fortunate that in the mid-90s, the Portsmouth Fine Arts Commission decided that this needed to be the Children's Museum of Virginia. So we got just one jump up on Richmond, and we're going to stick with it. This is the Children's Museum of Virginia.
Now, the foundation itself, a lot of people probably assume that it is just a branch of the city,
Yes.
but it's not.
No.
Could you explain, tell us a little bit about that?
It is a private organization. I, as the executive director, work for the foundation. I'm fortunate enough to have my office in the City Museum Administrative Building.
But you are not a city employee?
No, I am not a city employee. I am employed by the foundation, and I answer to the board. That's who I answer to.
Okay.
So they are a fantastic group of the most energetic workers, just fantastic people, all of them.
Besides the museum, now there are some other, aren't there a few other things throughout the city, displays and things that the foundation has been instrumental in putting up?
With the Phase 2 money, it was paid back to the city over a period of time. Mm-hmm. So at that point, City Council and the city manager came to us and presented the needs. And one was the housing for the Fresnel lens, which the city was given by the museum in Newport News. And so we had to find a place for it. So the wonderful pavilion was built down at High Street Landing, and that is known as the Fresnel Lens Pavilion. The other was the restoration of the lightship Portsmouth,
which is one of the few lightships of that sort still existent anywhere in the country that people can go visit.
Right. So we also provided the funding for the restoration of the lightship so that people can go aboard it and tour it and that type of thing. And then, of course, we've done a lot of other smaller projects in the city, but this is our big one right here.
And this really is the jewel in your crown.
And of course, another huge project is Winter Wonderland.
Yes.
We purchased that from Coleman Inc. in early 2004. So that's another huge project of which we still own, and it's maintained by the city. And the museums, of course, it's shown in the Art and Cultural Center. And so that was another tremendous project.
Yeah, something that's been around for 40 years, and it's still here because of the foundation.
Yeah, because of the foundation. So they are as I said, a very highly energetic group and want what's best for the city of Portsmouth and the city museums, of which we're so proud to have.
And you certainly have a reason to be.
Right.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. I'm standing here with Christine Pearsall, who is on the board of directors of the foundation. Christine, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Now, I was told that you were more or less the legal point person for the museum. You take care of a lot of the legalistic aspects of things?
I do. I've been on the foundation for 8.5, almost 9 years, and I am a lawyer by trade.
Okay.
So I kind of fell upon those duties, and I've really enjoyed it to become and serving on the executive committee, and also when there is a legal issue that happens to come, I am the person that they call.
Okay, are there challenges with a nonprofit organization special challenges?
In some ways, obviously our funds are limited, and what we do is, as a role is, we are the Portsmouth Community Foundation, the Portsmouth Museum Foundation, and what we do is we raise money for the Portsmouth museums. The 4 museums, obviously, our highlight since it's just opened reopened is the Children's Museum of Virginia, but we do fundraising for all of the 4 museums: the Children's Museum, the Naval Museum, the Portsmouth Cultural Arts Center, and the Lightship. But our main point has been the Children's Museum of Virginia. As you've seen, what great things have happened, and the amount of money that we've raised in order for the exhibits. Our role in the whole process was raising the money for the exhibits. Because it is a city-owned museum, we raised the exhibits so that this could happen. And in the middle of our fundraising for our capital campaign to get this all together, and obviously it was very successful. We are
Very
open.
successful, gorgeous.
We were able to also get an endowment from the Hampton Roads Community Foundation from Jane and Frank Batten, who are generous enough to give us we were one of the recipients of their $1 million endowment,
Wow.
which what that enables us to do is to keep the Children's Museum of Virginia fresh, keep our exhibits up to date, make sure that everything gets fixed so that we can stay new and improved and keep up with all the technologies. But part of that grant was also that we have a $500,000 challenge grant, which has been posed to the Portsmouth Museums Foundation to raise an additional $500,000. And any money that we raise is matched dollar for dollar by the Battens Fund over at the Hampton Roads Community Foundation. So we just finished our fundraising for the Children's Museum of Virginia for the capital campaign, but we're still in fundraising mode to get the full $500,000, which again is matched dollar for dollar, which will give, if we raise everything, that would be another additional $1 million towards the Portsmouth Museums.
I guess you're always in fundraising mode, though,
Yes.
aren't you?
No rest for the weary, no. I've been on the board almost 9 years, and we've been fundraising pretty much almost
So
every
you're one
day.
of the older board members, aren't you? I mean,
I
not
am.
older age-wise, but been on there longer than most people.
I am. I actually, there's a term limit, so I'll be coming off as an active board member in March, although I will be I don't think they'll let me off, so I'll be staying as an advisory member until, and then coming back on active for a
I got to
year.
ask you, what attracted you to getting involved with this? I mean, what was the draw?
I went to a gala. We hold a gala. I would like to say it was annual, but we didn't have it for a few years because the Children's Museum was shut down, so we didn't have a place to have it. But I went to, I think it was their third gala, and the organization was great. The people were great. I had a great time. I was new to Portsmouth at the time. I moved to Portsmouth 11 years ago. So I really didn't know that many people. I wanted to get involved, and I was thoroughly impressed with the board members. So I had known some people that were on the board, and they called and said they were looking for a young lawyer to join. And I couldn't say no, and I'm glad. It's one of, I had children. Almost 7 years ago, I had my first, and I started cutting back on a lot of the civic things that I did, but this was one board that I stayed on because I enjoy it so much.
And now they had children, they're probably the perfect age
Yes,
now to bring
yes,
here.
yes,
So
they love it,
I
they
know
love
their
it.
mom had a big part of it being here.
Yeah, they love it, and I love it because we saw from, what was before and what it's become, and you can see the results of your hard work.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all
Sure.
that hard work. And thanks for joining us and
Sure.
telling us about what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brad Hunter and Steve Gording are two of the newest members of the board of directors. And you guys came on board in April of this year?
Yes, sir. That's
And
correct.
you're also the youngest members, I believe, as well. So as the new kids on the block here, what excites you about being part of the foundation? What aspects of its work really appeal to you?
You want me to take this one?
Sure.
All right. Well, growing up, I knew that the foundation did a lot of work with the Children's Museum of Virginia, and I have great memories of going there as a kid and to be asked to join the board to help support the Children's Museum. It was a great honor, and then when I found out all the other wonderful things that they support around here, I was really sold.
Yeah. So the museum is quite a bit different than it was when you were a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. It used to be in the bottom of the courthouse gallery.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other things that besides the Children's Museum? What's some of the other work that really interests you or attracts you?
One of the things that I would say interests me and really excites me is just the depth of knowledge that we have on the board. It's a really broad cross section of folks in terms of the background of the directors, and just to see how they all come together to work also with the private sector as well as the government to create what we have here. That's one of the things that's really exciting to me because you're actually seeing it work and work well.
Yeah.
So I would say that part was definitely exciting.
Well, I know one of the compliments that the foundation's got, it really is a working foundation. It's not just people getting some honorary positions and sitting on a board going to a meeting once a month or every quarter. You guys really are busy raising money, and the museum is going because of what you're doing. As new members, what are some of the challenges that you see that maybe older members may not see? I know you've been on a very short time, but do you see any challenges ahead?
Well, one of the challenges that I would say is that, as is the case with most nonprofits, it's always getting harder and harder to raise money. And I think one of the main challenges is that you have to kind of evolve in how you do that. Things that were once great fundraisers or moneymakers in the past have to kind of evolve and change with the times. People are looking to get involved in different things. They're looking for slightly different tweaks on, what once was, the it thing to go to is now something that everyone's doing. So you have to create something new and different that continues to attract new people and new donors.
Okay. So what do you see, what would you like people to know about the foundation? I mean, a lot of people have no idea that it exists. They assume that all the museums, because they are city-owned, just run by taxpayer money. And here we have basically a volunteer private organization that's raising money for the museums. What would you like people to know about the foundation?
One of the neatest things I think is that there is more than just a children's museum. There's the Lightship Museum, there's a Fresnel Lens, there's the courthouse galleries. They're all integrated under the umbrella, and it's a really hard-working group behind the scenes, working to continue to support all the different cultural things.
Well, thanks for joining me today, and good luck on your work, and thank you for taking part in the work of the foundation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep going.
All right.
Thanks.
I'm with Peter Schleck, who is the president of the Portsmouth Museum Foundation. Thanks for joining us.
Sure, good to be here.
So how did you get involved with the foundation?
Well, it was someone I was active with in business 5 years ago, kind of gave me a little bit of arm twist. I came onto the board a little bit reluctantly. At the time, my kids were grown. I didn't have grandchildren. Now I have 2 grandkids, 6 and 4. They love the place, and now I really understand what the mission is all about.
And you're probably a little higher in their estimation too, since you're the president of the foundation that
That's
paid
right,
for all
yeah,
of this.
that's right.
Great. So now, a lot of foundations, a lot of people are pointing to them as sort of an honorary seat. You go to a meeting once or twice a year, maybe every month. But I've heard that this foundation is really a working foundation, that your board is really active. You want to comment on that?
Sure, Rob. I sit on 4 boards, and I'm active in 6 other organizations. And this, by far, is the hardest working board in show business. The Portsmouth Museums Foundation is very much a working board where people are completely engaged in all aspects of fundraising and governance of the foundation. So it's not something that people come to once a month or every other month, and that's it. We expect our board members to work hard, and they really do so willingly. It's really rewarding.
Now, with the name Portsmouth Museum, do you think that it's just Portsmouth citizens, but this is made up from members from all over the region, correct?
It's a very diverse group. We have membership throughout the city of Portsmouth, but also members who live in Norfolk, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, Suffolk. Very diverse in age. We've got people who are young who bring great new ideas to the board. We've got very experienced members who understand the history, and that helps us a lot too. So we have all races, and it's really a really diverse group.
Now tell me, events, fundraising events, what type of events do you do? How many of them are there a year? Does that number change?
Well, there are really multiple points where citizens of Portsmouth and the whole region can support the Museum Foundation. In the spring, Ed and Kathy Keel in Suffolk host a party which is very well attended and really benefits us. And then we have the benefit of the Elizabeth River Run, which is held every Memorial Day weekend, sponsored by the Tidewater Striders. Those proceeds in part go to the foundation. And then finally, in the fall, we like to have what we call a gala, or a big celebration. It's been a fancy black tie affair in the past. We're going to throw a little curveball in 2013. We're thinking about turning it into a costume party with a come as your favorite storybook character theme. So look for that in September or October. It ought to be a lot of fun.
Now, where is that held here at the
That'll
Children's
be
Museum?
held here at the museum.
Well, that's a lot of fun.
It's a great,
Adults can be
great party.
kids.
And again, as you've heard from others, we also have an endowment that we've just launched in partnership with the Hampton Roads Community Foundation, and a very generous matching grant from the Batten family. So we'll be publicizing that more heavily in the future. We wanted to get the expansion done, obviously, take a little bit of a breather, then move into that endowment phase. But we have multiple events throughout the years where you can support the museum.
Are there any particular challenges raising money with the economy the way it's been the last few years?
It was a challenge, but we really were up to it. And again, I mentioned how hardworking the board was. We raised $4 million from primarily the local business community and individuals. And we did it in the teeth of the worst recession that most of us have ever been through. So sure, we had challenges like everyone else, but we came through.
And have opened this during the worst recession in decades.
Absolutely.
Really,
And there are very few things that draw people to downtown Portsmouth from outside the area. And certainly the Children's Museum is really a crown jewel in the crown that we call downtown Portsmouth.
well, thanks for finding that jewel and polishing it and putting it in the crown.
My pleasure. The
All
pleasure of the whole board.
Thanks for joining us today.
Sure. Thank you.
When we return to Portsmouth Now, we'll take a look at the crowning achievement of the Portsmouth Museum Foundation, the Children's Museum of Virginia. Stay tuned.
Quiet, please. Wait a sec. I'll take one. Oh, yeah. All right. All good. Take care. Way to go. Nice. Bring it on. Gotcha. I'm here for you. Oh, no. Please, please, please. I'm waiting. Interesting. Not buying it. Not fair. That's it. This conversation is over. Oh, brother.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things.
I'm having a stroke. I'm having a stroke.
Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. F. Face drooping. A. Arm weakness. S. Speech difficulty. T. Time. Time to call 911 immediately. The sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. Learn the body language, the sudden signs, and spot a stroke fast.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital. I feel like a fish with no water.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor. Because even one attack is one too many.
A full life, measured in seats, starts with the right ones early on. Car crashes are the #1 killer of children 1 through 13. Learn how to prevent deaths and injuries by using the right car seat for your child's age and size.
Welcome back to Portsmouth Now and a look at the Portsmouth Museum Foundation. In recent years, thanks in a large degree to the work of the foundation, Portsmouth has become known as a museum city. Within just a few blocks of where I'm now standing, there are 6 fantastic museums, 2 privately owned and 4 owned and operated by the city of Portsmouth. The crowning jewel of the city's museum system is the Children's Museum of Virginia. Notice that I didn't say the Children's Museum of Portsmouth or the Portsmouth Children's Museum. That's because this museum, though owned and operated by the city of Portsmouth, serves the entire state. For most of the 20th century, this address on Portsmouth High Street was Leggett's department store. Now it's the home to one of the largest children's museums in the United States. In the spring of 2011, after being closed for over 3 years for major renovations and expansions, the Children's Museum of Virginia reopened its doors to the delight of local children and families, as well as those visiting from all over the Old Dominion and the nation. Everything displayed in the museum is tied with Virginia standards of learning. But don't for a minute think that just because the museum is educational, a visit is anything other than complete fun. The museum has 2 giant floors, loaded with enough displays and activities to fill a full day. Much of the first floor is filled with displays geared towards younger children, 2nd grade and younger. There's a working port where young visitors can operate cranes and load freight ships from all over the world. There's a tugboat to explore and fish from. On Beasley Lane, kids will find an entire town of their own to explore and play in. It features a bank, a grocery store with food, produce, and operating scanners and cash registers, a music store filled with percussion instruments, a dentist's office and a doctor's office with very funny interactive displays exploring some of the more icky yucky aspects of health and hygiene, a pet shop filled with cuddly plush animals, a fire station featuring a real fire truck, firefighter coats and hats, and fires which young visitors can put out using special fire hoses. There's a library from which every kid can take home a book for keeps, and the Beasley Planetarium offers several shows daily. Off from Beasley Lane, there's the Tot Yard for toddlers, while kids of all ages and adults will get a kick out of the bubble room where they can make bubbles of all shapes and all sizes. Also featured on the first floor is the Lancaster Toy Train and Antique Toy Collection. Many of the adults could easily lose track of time exploring this, one of the nation's largest antique toy train collections. The museum's massive second floor is filled with displays geared toward older kids, second grade and higher, but younger kids will enjoy it as well. In the expansive Backyard and Beyond display, kids can explore an environmental-friendly house, a giant beaver lodge, and the inside of a giant tree. They can also experience a bug's eye view of a flower garden. Other displays in this area focus on weather. One even features a miniature tornado. At Dr. Force's Circus, kids can play with interactive displays dealing with gravity, magnets, and other physical forces. What's a museum without art? There are interactive displays dealing with all sorts of visual arts. There's also the Make It Take It room, offering daily craft-making activities. And for the more theatrically inclined youngsters, there's a theater, complete with sets, costumes, puppets, and a kid-friendly lighting and sound effect board. All in all, there's something for everyone at the Children's Museum of Virginia, with enough displays and activities to fill a morning, an afternoon, or an entire day. The Children's Museum of Virginia also offers private art classes, day camps during the summer, and special events for holidays throughout the year. To find out more about these special events, simply log on to www.portsvaevents.com and then come to Portsmouth, where if you give us a day, we'll give you a vacation. Until next time, I'm Rob Lauer for Portsmouth Now.